Everyone has a story. Stories have power. They help us understand. Jessop's Journal is a collection of powerful, positive, and inspirational stories. It's time for Jessop's Journal.
Hi, I'm Doug Jessop. Welcome to this episode of Jessop's Journal, where we share powerful, positive, and inspirational stories and music. Today, we're going to have some fun. We're going to go do some puzzles, paintings, and Puerto Rico. So let's start with Eric Dowdle. Hi, I'm Doug Jessop. Welcome to this episode of Jessop's Journal. With me today, the renowned artist.
Oh, renowned. That's the key word.
Eric Dowdle. So Eric, thanks for coming on the show today.
Hey, thank you.
Do you remember the first piece of art that you sold?
It was in high school. It was to my art teacher, a different art teacher.
Okay.
But the real first time I sold art was, I don't know if you remember the company Scripture Stickers, but I was drawing in my stickers, or I was drawing in my scriptures, and I'm like, how can we get this to the masses? So I came up with the sticker concept and put it out there. And so that's the first time I really got paid to be an artist, with Scripture Stickers. And that was just an idea. And then pretty soon I actually knocked on people's doors and said, hey, can I paint your house for $250? I'm like, well, that's a good deal. Start over here on the porch. And I'm like, no, your house. Paint a picture of your house. So I would paint a picture for $250, do it in one day. And I'm like, I can make hundreds of dollars doing this. So then I went down to Walker Lane, you're familiar with that area, and knocked on some of those doors, and $250 just sitting around on the table. And I raised my prices, and slowly but surely, that's how it started.
Wow. Painting houses.
Sure.
Geez, I guess you're going to have to paint my house now.
I actually wanted my wife to do the folk art because I lived in Boston for a brief period, and she was from there, and folk art's big.
Oh, yeah.
And so I went, yeah, you ought to do that. Nobody's doing it. And she didn't want to, and so I started doing it. So it was kind of an accident.
So let's get into that. You say folk art. Okay, there's lots of different art. I've interviewed lots of different artists, and I've seen...
I love it all. I really do.
From, millennial ago. But what is you said folk art,
right?
Okay. What, in your opinion, what defines folk?
Okay, great question, because one time I had somebody write a 3-page essay telling me how my art is not folk art. And my only response to him was, wow, you know a lot about folk art. Because I think it's interpretational. My definition of folk art is the interaction between people and their environment. It's storytelling. I mean, to me, I can fit 15, 20 stories into one painting. And when I realized that, and it was later on in my career where I realized, my goodness, folk art is just a fantastic storytelling venue. And with a big family where we'd sit around dinner and we'd tell stories, and half of them were true, it was just natural for that to happen. So it was really an awakening for me to go one morning to go, wow, I was meant to do folk art. So that's my definition.
You've been an artist for quite a few years, but what was the impetus for this first puzzle thing, and what was your initial thought?
Well, that's a great question, because again, I feel fortunate that most of them are accidental. I was sitting down with somebody. I was doing a puzzle with somebody like you, somebody you want to know, a little intimidating, and you're going, I don't know what to talk about. And we started to do a puzzle together. Within 10 minutes, everybody lets their hair down. You can't fake it for too long. And before you know it, you're saying silly things, dumb things, funny things, whatever. And you just become yourself. And so all of a sudden I know this guy because we're doing a puzzle together, and we're telling stories. And then it gets serious, gets silly, mostly silly. But that's when I found out about my daughter's first kiss by doing a puzzle with her. And then,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And then you have to pretend like no big deal. It's like, yes, where does it live? Here, I've got a piece over here. Anyhow, that's how I learned or felt when I was doing my first puzzle. And I went, well, maybe I can do that. And so I started to make puzzles. My first one was a terrible puzzle, but it sold well. And I don't even know why to this day. But the next one was, I believe I did a Salt Lake City and a Portland puzzle. And nobody had a Portland puzzle in Portland, and so we sold very well. It was nice discovery, but it was more from the reality that people can really interact when you're doing a puzzle. You really get to know somebody. I love that part of it. Folk art is a little old-fashioned, farming, slowing down, talking, and again, storytelling. That's when it happens. Yeah. So that was the impetus of puzzles. And for years, I was introduced as the puzzle guy, and I didn't like that because I'm an artist, right? I don't want to be known as the puzzle guy. But for years I actually tried to get out of the puzzle business because I wanted to, the gallery market and prestigious art. But one day I woke up after I realized more people are looking at my art through puzzles than any other form of art. And I went, I'm being really ungrateful for the gift I've been given. And so I changed. And now I've embraced the puzzle side of this. I've named a show after puzzles.
The last question I like to ask everybody is kind of an esoteric question. Now, this is one of my journals. Okay, so you're going to be autographing this sucker in a little bit,
I'm going to ruin your book.
And it's okay. But, I'm expecting, I'm going to, I maybe
you want to draw
take it home. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we digress. But the show is called Jessop's Journal. People have stories of power. They help us understand each other. But the other thing is a lot of my stuff is leather, okay? Because leather has some kind of vibrance to it. It absorbs things.
It transfers.
And to me, life comes with scars, okay? And so my journal's got some scars. And you could also say that those scars are marks, okay? Now, you're a painter, okay? You're an artist. You make marks that are beautiful and that are lasting and are going to
try,
Yeah. So, official broadcaster voice. Okay. Eric Dowdle.
I'm ready.
How do you want to leave your mark?
I'm going to keep it as short as possible. And it goes back to something I said earlier. If I did not have to defend who I am, I wouldn't be able to answer that question. Because of the defense or what I've had to define along the way, being who you really are and letting yourself be that person takes a while for some people. It took me a while to get there. I spent my whole life pleasing people. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, what do I really want? I never even asked that question. It wasn't until I saw myself losing everything where I realized, okay, if I have nothing, then what matters? And that's when, and I made a lot of sacrifices along the way. My family, I didn't get to spend as much time with them. I missed out. I wanted to be a coach. Never got to do all that. So everything I've done, I've now have it sitting here, and I'm realizing if I don't have a family or a unit to celebrate this with, I don't have a mark or something like that. So I've made this, and that's for all the strangers and the people I will never meet. They will have something of mine. But what does my family have? So there's where I'm looking at. I've already made a mark in the art side of things. I'm giving people entertainment. My focus now is like, how can I bring my family more into what I do? And that's my challenge. And long after I'm gone, the art will live on, but somebody has to tell the story. And you want it to be somebody who's close to you. So family's everything. And it's been a rediscovery. So I got 8 kids, hers, mine, ours, theirs. And we're having a lot of fun rediscovering that. So that's where I want to leave my mark, with my family.
Well said.
I hope.
With another entry in Jessop's Journal, with Eric Dowdle, I'm Doug Jessop. Since we've talked puzzles, now it's time to do paintings, but let's do it in Puerto Rico. It's time for TV Travel Man. After cruising across the Atlantic Ocean, it was nice to see the USA again. Well, at least a territory of the U.S., Puerto Rico. We landed in the capital city of San Juan and toured various historical sites. Here's a fun fact. The smoothbore cannon at the fort established the international waters line. Let's put it this way. The cannon could shoot 3 miles. If you didn't have an invitation, you just might visit Davy Jones' locker. We did have an invitation to Museo de Arte de Puerto Rico, otherwise known as the Museum of Art at Puerto Rico. The museum showcases over 1,000 works of art from the 17th century to the present, including prints, paintings, drawings, sculpture, photographs, and of course, don't forget, new media. You got to check out the masks. Puerto Rico is also pretty proud to have a Miss Universe crown and the sash in its collection. With another entry into Jessop's Journeys, people, places, and things you might not know about, broadcasting from San Juan, Puerto Rico, I'm Doug Jessop. One of my favorite inspirational quotes is from Audrey Hepburn. She said, "To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow." Hi, this is Doug Jessop, TV Garden Guy. I'm at my happy place with Lorraine, where
every day's a great day.
Of course it is. I noticed that there's a whole bunch of butterflies around here, and it's got to be all the pollinators.
There's a lot of pollinators here, and what you want is the flowers with the smallest. In fact, look right there. There goes, look at that. Hey, look at the hummingbird right there. You want these in your yard? Many a garden will be full of wildlife because you've added color and sustainable plants like pollinators.
You know, the other thing that I just absolutely adore is when you come here and you see kids and then their moms and maybe even their grandma and grandpa.
Yes, there's a lot of multi-generational families here that come through, and we love it all. The more diversity of plants and the more diversity of people, the better. And that is why every day is a great day at Mill Creek Gardens. Ba-da-ba-ba.
Members of the military have a special bond. In this story, the phrase blood brothers takes on a whole new meaning. Ed Cameron's kidneys are failing. We met while he was getting dialysis.
That long tube you see over there on the end right there is the actual artificial kidney, and the blood runs through that. It's filtered, it runs back through, and then it goes back into my body. And they basically take everything out and put everything back in.
Ed served in the Army and was stationed in Germany. Coincidentally, Ed's neighbor in American Fork, Spencer Cannon, did as well.
We didn't know each other then, but when I found that out, that we had served in Germany at the same time, that made our bond closer.
These brothers in arms share a love of music.
When I first met Spencer, I remember seeing him sing in church, and I thought, isn't that the sheriff?
That's not the only thing they're going to share. Spencer is donating a kidney to Ed.
He told me I need to start getting some people tested for kidney donation. And I said, well, I'll get tested, see if I qualify, see if we're a match.
It is absolutely incredible that a white person is going to step up to the plate for an average Joe, black person and donate a kidney to save my life.
The surgery was successful.
Spence, you just saved my life, bro.
You made my life better.
Visiting after surgery, they're both a little tender, both in body and spirit.
Behold, 'tis eventide.
At 2% kidney function. He came in at the nick of time, just like a first responder, and he saved my life.
I'm grateful, bro.
It was the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Everyone has a story. One of our guests shared a special object. Objects with stories are treasures remembered. Objects with stories are treasures remembered. And I'm pretty sure Brandon has got some pretty cool treasures.
Here you have the bomb case from the series Lost. The passport of Dr. Jack Shepard, who is the principal character on Lost, along with his flight passes.
Hey! What's your name? Jack!
Coupled with the bomb case, which was part of the season finale. This is the pilot episode screenplay from J.J. Abrams, as well as items that were worn on screen by the Dharma Initiative, which was a key part of the entire plot that went for so many seasons.
Objects with stories are treasures remembered. I'm pretty sure he's got a bunch, but this one from Lost, I think's a winner. If you have an object with a story that you'd like to have featured on TV, well, I'm your guy. Go to treasuresremembered.com for details. As promised, here's another artist, a gentleman that does phenomenal work in watercolor, Al Rounds. Al, it's time to sign into Jessop's journal. With me today, Mr. Al Rounds. Al, thank you so much for coming.
You're very welcome.
Or actually, I guess I should say I came to you. You know, this is a beautiful studio. Thank you very much. You had an interesting little experience in third grade.
Yes, I went to back to school night with my mom and dad, and as we went walking in the room, there was a girl standing by the door, and she said to her mother, "Look, Mom, there's the artist in our class." And man, I heard that. That went deep into me, and I said to myself, I said, yes, that's what I am. I'm an artist.
There's a painting upstairs that is above your fireplace that is in a meadow, and there's a young man. What's the story behind that painting?
That painting is an interesting story. It started when President Nelson said in conference, when he was announcing about the 200-year celebration, he said, go home and figure out what you need to do to prepare for that conference. And then I turned to Cynthia and I said, there are 2 paintings I needed to do, have wanted to do for a long time on the Sacred Grove, and I told her that I needed to get that painting done. And so I started meeting with the church historian, Don Enders, and I got spend a lot of time preparing, getting ready for that. And then COVID hit, and I couldn't go. And but I was so disappointed because I had worked so hard getting ready to do a painting. But last July, so a year ago from this month, I had a dream. And the dream was very clear and really interesting. There was no sound. But I could see this young man standing on a grassy knoll. I was able to look at his clothes really closely. I could see he had on pants that were too big for him. They were coarsely made. He had a shirt that was way too large. I mean, they were both kind of drowning him. He had a blanket over his shoulders and a big floppy hat. Doug, you would have loved his hat.
Gotta love hats.
All messed up and crunched up and everything. And I knew it was Joseph Smith when he was 14. And he was on his way to the Grove. And then my dream ended, and I woke up and I told Cynthia about it. And so I can't paint from my head. I have to go someplace and research. I have to research a painting, but I have to go to the place. It's really important for me to kind of touch and feel the landscape or whatever I'm painting. Say if I'm doing a historical painting, then there's buildings in it that are not there. I build little models to help me visualize, because I can't paint. I can see it in my head. It's like if I say to you, draw me a horse, and you can see a horse in your mind, and so can I, but I can't draw from that.
Neither can I. That's just because I don't know how to do it.
That's frustrating to me as an artist, but I go find a horse and I can draw it. You know, if I can look at something, I can draw it. So I used my grandson. I rented clothes from This Is the Place Monument and dressed him up like I saw in my dream, and or similarly to my dream. And I posed him out in the field. He was a good sport, because 14-year-olds, and he's 14, they stand a certain way. It's not a man with his shoulders back, you know. Well, they kind of slouch a bit.
Well, I will say, just so you know, that the hat that he's wearing is also called a slouch.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure if that's coincidental, but just saying.
Just a little heavy on the head.
Well, you know. Anyway.
So anyway, I've worked through a real long, tedious process of trying to get it not to look like Isaiah, my model, but what was in my mind from the dream. And I spent months trying to get that face right, because I thought that was pretty important. So the painting is of Joseph on his way to the grove. And he stopped and he's just thinking, don't know what he was thinking, but so that's the painting that's upstairs.
Okay. Now, this is a sketch of something, but it's got a whole bunch of notes on it. What's the deal here?
A commissioned painting, and up in Lewiston, Utah, by a young lady, and she wanted me to do a painting of her grandfather's home up in Lewiston, because the farm was being sold, and she wanted to preserve the memories that she had of going up there, and 4th of July, and all the holidays would be up at Grandpa's house on the farm in Lewiston. So I went through all these small little sketches. I actually are trying to pick their brain of what looks good to them, because everybody's different and they see things differently. And finally I came across one that she said, oh, I like that one, but I don't like this half of it. And so I scaled it down, and this is what I came out with in terms of composition for the painting.
Okay.
And then all the notes up there, this home was very endearing to her. And I just felt like it was really important that I remember the things that were important to her. It's not like I want to include every single thing on a painting, but it's much like I try to paint the familiarness of a site. You know, I try to capture the spirit of what I paint. I want you to come in and walk into it and have a relationship with what I'm painting. So if a person has a lot of things that are very important to them, then I try to find a way to put it in a painting that's still a good painting, a beautiful painting, but will also be reminders of what's important to them. So that's what I wrote all those things up so I could keep remembering them. You'd be surprised how you get so focused in on a painting, trying to figure out how to paint it, you know, the technical part of it, you forget everything. I mean, you forget appointments and everything. It's just like everything disappears, right?
I understand that you have your garden for a particular reason.
Yeah, I do. I use my garden in my paintings. I plant it in such a way that, after all these years, I know certain things. I've got a picket fence with things growing through them or something, so I kind of plant my garden with those things in mind so that I can use my flowers if I need them in a painting. I actually got that from being in England and going through all the gardens there. But when we visited Beatrix Potter's home, and I saw what she, the grounds of her home, the home itself, it's neat to us because it's an old stone British home, but it's not architecturally it's not beautiful, interesting, but the gardens make it very beautiful.
Oh yeah.
And so that really had a profound effect on me when I was walking through there, and I thought, I've got to do this in my yard.
Everyone has a story, and sometimes those stories are told through music. It's time for Jessop's Jukebox. Sometimes you love each other enough to part ways. The love doesn't go away, the memories don't go away, but it does look different. So ladies and gentlemen, with the debut of her song, 6 Years, here's Sydney Keddington.
Hit it off the bat, a lot of folks can't say that. I knew I felt something there, I hadn't in the past. Moved it fast as you hadn't need to get to a serious place, make no mistake. I knew we'd hit a wall. And Lord knows I tried to reel it in, better than it really does. I'm just missing you. Looking back on life with you wouldn't change a thing. Love's love, does what it does, it won't wait on me. Truth be told, I needed you. It hurts to think about, but it's worth what we got now. Well, 6 years later, I'm walking alone, better than I've been in so damn long. And as the days go by, I hold in my heart the 6 years that taught me the art of laughing hard and making love and talking about dreams and being proud of the stuff that makes you who you are. Man, and I'm so proud of who we are. I'll keep on loving you.
What makes you smile? Spry Natural Xylitol mints make me smile. I think it might help you too. Thanks for watching this episode of Jessop's Journal, where we share powerful, positive, and inspirational stories and music. Here's the thing I want you to remember, and you know what I'm going to say, right? Here we go. Everyone has a story. Stories have power. They help us understand each other. With another entry into Jessop's Journal, I'm Doug Jessop.